Well, I want to open with big congratulations. Let's give a round of applause to Claude for Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. I told him it must have been a rough class for him to make it through like that. So, hell of a job. He and Thomas Davis both will be going in. So I know that's. I've been to that event. They do a tremendous job. I think it's in Macon, correct? And they do an outstanding job. It's a great honor to have Claude represent us, and he's done it for a long time. So our fans were elite tonight. I'll be honest with you. I was concerned about complacency among our team, but I was also concerned about complacency among our crowd. And I thought, first time having a night game, and I don't know, you guys know better than me, but it seems like it's been a long time. So the atmosphere was really good for our players. We didn't exactly respond to it well early, but I really thought our fans were really good. We talked a long time this week to our players about setting the standard for how we prepare for games. Like during the week of practice, and then how we prepare for games on Friday, and then how we prepare for games on Saturday. And I thought they really did a good job of that every day. And then set the standard for how we play the games. We probably didn't meet that criteria, but I did think we had some players grow up out there today. And when you look on the sideline and there's 5 and 6 guys that are dinged up and banged up, and we knew there was going to be some butterflies for some guys, particularly on offense, and I thought they grew up tonight. So we get feedback, right? Like the next step in this process is, what is the feedback? And I'm not talking about feedback from you guys. Unfortunately, I don't care what you think or what you say, but we got feedback on the tape now. So we get to watch the tape and say, what does the feedback say, and figure out who we are and where we go from here. I was very proud of Carson in his first start. I thought he had great composure. Really, that was almost the epitome of every scrimmage he had. He threw the ball away when he had to. He hit the spots when he had to. He made good decisions. He didn't put us at risk. He made good checks. He did some really good things, and I'm really proud of him. We got to get some more help around him from weapons and get some guys healthy, but proud of what he did. Got to turn the ball over better on defense, and we got to make some plays on special teams. But I thought C.J. Smith and Muse really stepped up tonight. They're two guys that had outstanding camps, and it rolled over into opportunities. I mean, those two guys had never really made a play in a game, and they went out there tonight and were able to do that. That'll pay dividends down the road. So with that, I'll open it up for you guys' suggestions or questions.
Coach, you mentioned y'all practiced relatively well this week. When there's a slight, maybe a disconnect between practice performance and game performance, where might that disconnect lie?
It could be anxiety. It could be the team we play. They did a good job. I wouldn't say they controlled the line of scrimmage, but they stopped the run well. We were not explosive in the run game outside of 2 runs maybe, I don't know. But they did some nice things, and we got an opportunity to improve on a lot of things and get better and find the guys that we got to say who touches the ball. And there were some pretty good ones over there on the sideline that didn't get to touch it, and we knew we were going to have to spread it around and get Ra involved, get Arian involved, get Dylan Bell involved, and find guys that are going to be weapons for us throughout the year. Dom, Muse, and we got to continue to use those guys.
No Glad and no Marcus, what are they dealing with? And then sort of going off what you were just saying, your evaluation of the receivers who did play, how they played tonight.
Hard to say. I hadn't watched it much. Lad's dealing with a back. Marcus is internal issue. I hope to get both those guys back soon. And we got to get better all the way around the board. We got to get everybody back. Jackson Meeks is a guy that had an unbelievable camp who's dealing with a foot injury. So when you look at it, there's just a lot of guys that are just beat up and banged up. But that's not an excuse. That's just we got to go out there and play with the guys we got.
Kirby, you had a new offensive coordinator for the first time since 2019, I guess. 2020 was the first for Todd. But how do you think things went with Mike tonight?
Well, they went really well. I thought we struggled a couple times early. One of the most critical plays, 2 plays in the first half, where we had a 3rd down that we executed probably 1,000 times in camp. And Dom and Carson weren't on the same page. Ended up, Carson thought he was going to sit down. Dom thought he was breaking in. He threw a little behind him. We convert that. We feel like we go on and score. That hurt us. And then settling for a field goal before the half was frustrating. We've been really good in those situations. Like we were going to get a score there, a touchdown, and we're going to get the ball right back in the second half, because when you get the last possession, the first possession, you can go 14-0. And we missed out on those 2 things. So I wish I had those 2 back. But I thought that our guys functioned well, especially when Carson was in and out of the pocket, getting the ball to Brock, which, we limited that some. We could have certainly got it to him even more. But we want to make sure that we're smart about that and we get the ball to other guys.
Kirby, you got the young quarterbacks in late. Can you comment on Brock and Gunner?
Yeah, I thought both of them got to come in and play. It was important to let them play and not sit there and hand the ball off. And, Gunner's group didn't execute as well as maybe they should have, and he made some plays around it with his feet. Brock's group got holdings and cost him one series there that he played well. They just, self kind of inflicted wounds around it we can't have, but he came out and had another good series. So both those guys, look, guys, they continue to get better. And I am so pleased with their progress and what they're doing. We're in such a good position there because they both play. I mean, you only saw, 6, 7 plays of each one of them. I've seen 20 and 30 plays of them, and I feel really good about each day they get better.
With Carson, did you sense him getting more and more comfortable as the game went on?
I never thought he wasn't comfortable. Carson's got a calmness about him and poise about him. There's really only 2 throws I wish he had back. The overthrow to Arian that was really long, and Arian got behind the defense, and then the third down that, we should have executed that.
Kirby, obviously it's only the first game, but when the bar is so high, expectation level is so high, and you're playing a program that a lot of people think you should walk over. I'm just curious as a coach how you measure what a successful night is.
The expectations are never higher than they are in our building. So we have high expectations, and I think our coaching staff will tell you that if you're sitting on our headphones and you're sitting in our building, we internally look at ourselves harder than anybody. But I'm never going to apologize for a win. I learned a long time ago when a player that's not here in the NFL now came to me and said, I've never felt like when I win, I lose. And it'll never be that way for me. So I'm very proud of the guys and ecstatic. We got a lot to work on, though.
Coach, you mentioned allowing the younger quarterbacks to operate within the offense. Has that been a philosophy change over the years where we got to give guys game reps, or is that something you've always stood by?
I've always stood by it. It's just been times that the game was too far out of hand, or maybe it was the third quarterback and not the second quarterback. The third quarterback sometimes is further away, and we got a battle going on at 2 that we need to see who's going to play if something happens to Carson. And those 2 guys are neck and neck, and we want to give both those 2 guys an opportunity to play. Last year was a little different because Carson needed to come in and play, and Brock didn't always get those opportunities. But we want to see Brock and Gunner both go in and play within the offense, because that's where you see their mistakes and their flaws, or you see their strengths and their weaknesses.
Kirby, you were pretty blunt about the run game in the first half in your halftime assessment on radio. How much of that is intensity versus scheme or just execution?
I don't know. I have to go back and watch the tape and see. I don't think it's necessarily a scheme. We have the runs we have, and we run the same runs everybody in America runs. So a lot of that's going to be, do we get movement? Did we have the wrong mic point? Did they just whip us? There's times where we didn't get movement and should get movement. And did a back make anybody miss? Because ultimately, the best runs I've ever seen are the ones that you break tackles on, and you got to be able to do that too.
Going back to that Marcus internal issue, is it something with the school, the team, something off the field that happened? When you're saying it's internal?
I don't think I have to discuss that, right? So it's one of those deals that we keep our discipline internal, and Marcus knows why he didn't play tonight, and hope we get him back.
Kendall, he was first back in there, and seemed pretty excited about getting to play, overcoming those injuries and everything. How did you feel about his performance?
He was not 100%. He played because he wanted to play and he wanted to help. He didn't want us to have to go out and play with 2 backs that had never played a college football game. And he would probably tell you he was about 90%. And as the game wore on, he tightened up some, and it started, starting to bother him with his hamstring. But he has not done much all camp. He hasn't been able to. He's just now getting back to where he could do some things. And Dejan was not. He probably could have played, but he was less percent than Kendall. So I was very proud of Kendall. He stepped up, picked up a blitz, did some really nice things. We're going to need Kendall and Dejan to play really well.
What can you say about the weapon that Brock Bowers has developed for you? We saw him at running back, tight end, receiver for you tonight.
Yeah, he's been doing it since he got here. He really tonight showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit. He's been banged up too, and you wouldn't have seen it or noticed it with the way he played. He's a competitor.
You mentioned the quarterback competition in terms of the backups. Do you view the other cornerback spot opposite Kamara the same way, and that those guys just continue to compete? It looked like they both played in rotation.
Well, all those guys are competing. A.J. Harris, Nallen Green, all those guys are competing for that other spot. There's not been a large separation. There may have been in this game, and I got to watch the tape. But they'll continue to compete every day in practice, and Kamari knows he's got to play well too, because the other guys around him are. So there's nothing that's just locked up and done. It never is at our place.
Given the injuries at running back, what do you make of Ronald Robinson's performance
proud of Roger. You know, it's nothing like the first time. In my experience, I've learned from being an assistant coach, defense coordinator, and head coach that it takes probably 4 to 5 games before a freshman's comfortable. And we got to get through that with some guys. Every year we've been here, somebody, I mean, Jonell goes out the first play and just like they just, sometimes they just do crazy stuff. And you're like, what are they doing? And you got to get through those. And he took one step closer to doing that. I mean, Andrew's in the same boat as him, right? He's a year older, but he hasn't played. So we got to bring those two guys along because they're big physical backs, and we need to get some production out of them.
A couple weeks ago, you mentioned that you thought that you were a thin defensive line. How do you feel they did tonight in terms of being strong at the POA, shedding blocks, all that stuff?
Hard to evaluate, you know, the level of competition. We're better than the guys we played against. It's going to be a bigger evaluation when it's A, hotter, and B, a bigger offensive line. No disrespect to UT Martin, but they made a decision that they were going to, if they were going to run the ball, they're going to do it through their quarterback. And I think I would venture to say, I don't know, 33% of their yards were their quarterback runs, and he's not necessarily a true runner, but they did it because they had to rush the ball, and they did a nice job of that. So I didn't think internally we had breakdowns. We had some on the perimeter.
On your safeties unit, I mean, Javon Bullard, Tyke Smith, I mean, Malachi, all of those guys made plenty of tackles today. What'd you view of that unit and their performances today?
I watched the tape and evaluated C. I thought Malachi could have had a pick. I thought Bull did a nice job. I thought Tyke made some good plays in eye control, but I don't know that we got challenged, you know, like we're going to get challenged.
Who got the game ball tonight?
Trust we're on 77 and the decision to make that a weekly thing. What went into that as a way to honor Devin?
We talked about it as a staff and a team. We went to the players and talked about what they wanted to do, and the offensive line felt very strongly about it, and Coach Searles kind of made the decision that Truss, who was, you know, really close to Dev and lived with Dev, that we would honor him and allow him to play in that jersey.
Who did
Pretty
you
real
give the
close
good
to a shutout. Did you have a thought on the scoring play or on the scoring drive?
Did I have a thought on it?
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble with officials, but they
I mean, they reviewed it, so they know better than I know. I mean, it wasn't like they were trying to point shave or something. I mean, they just they look at it and they make the decision. I mean, I don't question what they do. I don't think there's ulterior motives. So I wish we could have got the ball down and made the shutout for the rest of the guys. But I'm just proud all those guys got to play. You know, there was a point in time in the game that I didn't know if we were going to be able to get those guys in, and that's big for their growth.
You guys rotated a lot of guys on defense pretty much the whole game. How happy were you with just the communication between different guys on defense, everyone just being on the same page?
Well, I'm happy, but that was the expectation. Like we have a lot of players back, and when we went into the game tonight, I talked to the offensive staff and I talked to the defensive staff, and I was like, look, we're going to lean on our defense because we got some guys who were nervous and had not played on offense. And you know, the expectation that he talked about, and the everybody just thinks you're going to walk out there and just roll over these teams, you know, and it ought to be 40-0 by halftime, and then it's not. You get tighter and guys get worried. I'm over that. I'm past those days. I want to grow and get better. It's not about who we play, and the defense executed like they should, and we should play well, and we got to continue to do that.
Who got the game ball tonight? Who did you give in the locker room?
I don't do game balls. I've never been smart enough to figure that out. My game balls go out on Monday when we watch the tape. But if I had to, it'd be Muse or C.J. Smith probably.
Coach, I asked you this week what you thought your team might be elite at or what you might be concerned about. You told me you didn't quite know yet.
Yeah.
What'd you learn today?
That we're going to go back to work tomorrow, and we're going to grind tomorrow and get ready for Ball State. I mean, I never read too much into it. I just don't think you get too high or too low, and you know, people hit panic buttons, people have expectations, and all I'm worried about is the process of getting better. Because at the end of the day, this is one thing I know: we got to get better.
What did Peyton do during fall camp to earn the kicking job, and how did you evaluate how he did it?
I thought he did a good job. He hit the doink one time there on the crossbar, but we'll look and see. It was really close, to be honest with you. I hated it because Zirkle had a great spring, and he had a really good fall camp. But ultimately, the height of the kicks was the biggest difference because their percentages were almost the same. But, you know, I told him, I said, I'm going to do drills to see, you know, who can kick the ball higher, faster. And that is where kicks get blocked. And Peyton did a better job of that. But I'll be honest with you, I got a ton of confidence in both those guys.
C.J. Allen was in there a good bit. How impressive you been by him as a freshman
Hard to play freshman linebacker in our defense. And he and Raylan, being here in the spring, have really grown and been able to do it. Raylan probably would have been in the same boat as him if it had not been for his knee. CJ picks things up. He's very smart and intelligent. He's conscientious. He wants to do things right. He has a chance to be a good player. And, you know, we've got a pool of inside linebackers right there around him that I mean, I was proud to smile. You know, he came out there and played in some sub situations, and he's trying to get back 100%. But CJ did a nice job.
Coach, you kind of lamented not getting enough turnovers. Of course, a couple guys missed them, but Kyron Jones got one right at the end. What was your evaluation of that play?
The tip ball. It was a tip ball, so it was lucky is what it was. But he's going to think he did really good, you know. And it's like everybody. When you get a tip ball, it's lucky. I got a lot of interceptions in college that were tip balls. So it doesn't make you a good player. It makes you in the right play at the right time, right place.
You had four safeties at one time. I believe it was Van Jackson and Javon in the back, and then kind of both Starks and Tyke in the slot. Was that because of the uncertainty at inside linebacker and just having one in the middle, or you guys ran that look before?
No, it's just called dime. It's just called dime. 6 DBs out there. We've done it every year since we've been here. Nothing special about it. It's just having enough DBs that you can play in sub situations. So we have plenty of linebackers to play, 2 linebackers, but it's based on what the offense does.
You kept saying that the guys grew up today, so how do you define that? Like, what were you specifically seeing that you felt like they grew up?
Well, the second half, C.J. Smith caught a screen and ran through 2 people's face. And the guy was still on the ground out there, hurt, and C.J. popped up and played physical. He made a play over the middle. Ra caught a long pass. Muse caught the screen and went to the house. That's growing up to me.
When you had an interception in college off a tip ball, did you think you were a good player?
Yeah, I did. And my coach didn't say I wasn't, but I'm not saying that Kyron's not a good player. Kyron is a good player. Kyron's going to be a really physical good player. The difference is Kyron can run 10-400 meters, and that's really fast. But just like Pop, his first play he ever got in, he got a pick 6. You know, Kyron, that was his second or third play he was in, but sometimes it pays to be lucky.
You talked about Ra. How has he progressed since he first got here to where he is now?
Got a ways to go. He keeps getting better. He had a couple busted assignments that were costly that he didn't do the right things, and he's got to work through those. You know, I know you can say, well, he's not a freshman. Well, he is in our offense, and he played in a very, very different offense last year, and he is working his tail off. And he deals with expectations too, from you guys, from home, from all over the place. And he's a great kid who's working his tail off to learn how to play the position like a pro player. And he's taking that head on, and he's going to continue to improve. And I love the kid, and I want him to get better. I was proud that he was able to work through some jitters tonight.
Coach, you got a long list of upperclassmen that have waited their opportunities, most notably Carson Beck, but even guys like Warren Brinson. What was it like to be able to see those guys walk out as presumed starters for the first time in their careers?
Well, it was good. I mean, I think it pays off. I mean, you look at Quay Walker, you look at the guys, Devontae Wyatt, who've paid off by starting late in their career, and they know the work they get from their freshman, sophomore, junior year is probably better work than they can get anywhere in the country. You don't get drafted by playing. You get drafted by playing good. So what allows you to play good? Work and competition. And those guys are product of work and competition. We had a lot of guys out there like that. We got a mature team, but they got to handle it the right way. And I think we got a hungry football team, but I didn't always see that tonight.
Time for 2 more questions?
Coach, Ernest Green on that left tackle spot. I mean, without looking at film initially, how'd you feel like he did in his first start?
I couldn't say. I know there was one time he got beat inside, forced Carson to get out of the pocket, that we threw it to Dom late over this middle, and Dom got hit, that we would have been an easy completion. But outside of that, I couldn't say. I would say that as a whole offensive line-wise, we got to get more movement. We got to be able to run the ball better.
Knowing expectations has been the mantra of this in the last 2 seasons and things of that nature. How do you go preaching to your guys and your coaching staff about the poise that is important to maintain throughout this season and throughout the rest of your career?
Yeah, I don't think our mantra has been about expectations for the last 2 years. Our mantra is always about getting better and working. That's what our mantra is. We live outside expectations. I realize they're there. That's not foolish, but I'm old enough and smart enough and wise enough to know you better enjoy moments like tonight, because you don't get them all the time. And winning football games is not easy, no matter who it is. And if you don't rise up or you don't meet the expectations of whether it's a fan base or a media base, you gotta make your team realize that we can actually get better. And they don't need to pay attention to any negativity. And not that I'm saying there will be, just you got to get better. And guess what? The team that's standing at the end will be the one that got better. So that's what we're trying to be.